Hello, everybody. Welcome back. YouTube.com/Geek Aloud for the Gaming Enforcement Agency. I think it's episode 93. I'm joined, second slotting it, by Ace. Ace, how are you this evening, buddy?
Every day's a good day, and what a spectacular day it has been coming into spring. We get that little bit of warmer weather out there, which sort of makes you feel a little bit guilty by sitting inside and playing video games. But at the moment, it's night time, so you should be sitting down and locking into what we have to say coming up next.
Indeed, we do. And third slotting it this evening, Bully. How are you, my friend?
I'm doing very well, but let's be honest, doesn't matter whether it's rain, hail, or shine, any day's a good day for gaming.
Oh, shit, yeah. Speaking of good games, shall we kick it off into games, interrogation, and deliberation? First up this evening is the excellent, I'd go out on a limb and say, Astro Bot, and handing it over to you, Bully, for the lead investigation.
Excellent is probably the right word. It's for me, it's equal parts amazing new game and some of the stuff that they've got in there, and equal parts fantastic nostalgia, even though Astro Bot in and of itself isn't really that old a franchise, really only going back probably half a dozen years now. But
was it a launch title for PS4, I want to say, the Playroom one?
I think there was Astro's Playroom, and then they had the Astro's VR, whatever that one was called. But absolutely amazing. That it's for anyone that's got a PS5 console. You had the Astro Bot game pre-installed on the console, so I think most of you would have played that. It's basically that times 10.
Yeah,
bigger worlds. Each of the individual levels are bigger. The worlds are bigger. There's more levels to play through and all that sort of stuff. So it's almost takes that same sort of formula from the one on the PlayStation 5 hard drive, in that that particular game had a lot of because it was a launch of the PS5, it had a lot of throwback to old Nintendo hardware and consoles and stuff. Whereas this one's got a similar thing, but it's more about the gaming experience over the last 30 years with PlayStation and the characters and the games, and even a lot of the levels are sort of designed around those characters and games in and of themselves. So you have, for instance, you've got one of the end levels in one of the galaxies is Uncharted, and then another one you've got Horizon, and you can see on screen there you've got Ape Escape. So there's little nods to all this fantastic PlayStation IP over the last 30 years. It's absolutely amazing. In terms of the gameplay, it's probably one of, if not the best 3D platform that I have ever played. Just the controls.
Yep, winner.
In general terms, and then as you sort of get towards the end of the game, there's a whole bunch of challenge levels and stuff as well, and they can be quite difficult. Some of the levels, they're quite challenging, but it's not through in the vast majority of the circumstances, the challenge isn't the level in and of itself, or the control scheme, or the camera, or anything like that, which is sometimes what you get with 3D platformers. The challenge is just the challenge itself and how good you can become at that particular level. And there were some of those challenge levels that I sort of went through, and you do it in the first sort of 3 or 4 tries, and you think, oh yeah, okay, I'm all over this, and then you get to the next one, and you'd be there for an hour, and 100 times you'd be running through it. And the issue with those challenge levels is if you die at any point in that challenge level, you come all the way back to the start and have to work your way through it again. So there's that aspect of it if you really want to get into it, but the vast majority of it is what you can see on screen now. It's just sort of mid-sized open world areas that you sort of work through, and there's collectibles in each of those. You work your way through each level, and then the overarching collectible that you have is obviously the actual bots themselves, and some of those I found really interesting, that you collect them and it'd flash up on screen who it was, and as they were flashing up, you're racking your brain as to, what game were they from, or where have I seen those before, and sort of work through that. So there's all of that, and then once you exit these individual levels, there's essentially a hub world, which is where the ship, which is a PlayStation 5, has crashed, and you have the collection of all those bots that you've gathered over the journey of the game. So from my point of view, it's an absolute marvel. As I said before, it's probably one of, if not the best 3D platformers I've ever played, and I love 3D platformers just for that nostalgic feeling in and of themselves, but this just takes it to an absolute another level.
Can I throw one at you, Billy?
Shoot.
Can you put any Mario game above this game?
In terms of gameplay, I'd say it's probably for my favorite Mario game is probably Mario 64.
Yep.
I know it hasn't aged that well, but for the time it was fantastic.
Yeah.
And this is probably on par with just the joy that it brings you playing through it.
Yes.
And the constant smile that you have on your face just seeing these little things and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. Ace, mate.
Is this? It looks from the gameplay, and I haven't played the game yet, but does it steal a lot from Mario 64? Just even sort of how the camera pans and how you move around, even the jumping, but the shoot seems to shoot lasers rather than jumping on their heads. Is this basically a PlayStation's answer to Mario?
Yeah, more or less. So even to the point where, like, if it's almost taken that. So Mario Odyssey had that expanded sort of way of dealing with. It was basically Mario 64, but on a grander scale. This is more like your Mario 64 sized levels. So they're not massive levels that you could spend hours and hours working through and exploring. They're levels that you can play through within probably 10 or 15 minutes. If you wanted to spend an extra 5 or 10 minutes to explore and get all the collectibles. But in most circumstances, you're done with that level in sort of 25 minutes to 30 minutes.
And I'll just point out on screen now is the Galaxy overworld where you can see the various different worlds you can get to. And then within them, there's the different planets you can land on, which are the different levels themselves. Sorry, Billy, back to you.
Yeah, so it's probably on par with Mario 64, I'd say, in terms of just the absolute joy and the design of it and all that sort of stuff. I think I grabbed it, played through it in 2 days and platinumed it. That's how much I loved it. I just put everything else to the side, just ripped through it and absolutely enjoyed every second of it. There wasn't, even those frustrating sort of challenge levels, as frustrating as they were still really enjoyable to play through.
Yeah, and so from my side, I've only put about 3 hours into it so far. I've just gotten into that second galaxy. I'm 2 worlds in there. I've unlocked 2 of the, what's it called, the mystery universe or parallel universe, the sort of secret levels, whatever that one's called. I've unlocked 2 there, played 1, but absolutely fantastic game. Oh, Bully, what's these machines called? Like in real life,
they're like
emulating.
They're almost like a pachinko type machine.
Pachinko. That's the one I was looking for. So this is what you spend, you're collecting coins all game, but then you go back to your sort of hub world and then you spend the coins and you get more little unlockables and everything. Oh, and shout out to the integration of the controller, the what do you call it? 6-axis, whatever, the movement in your hand, the rumble feedback. Oh, Bully, what are you doing to me? It's one of the best features.
It is to a point, and then there's some levels that it just grates on you no end. So I just ended up turning it off.
Oh no! But this is really something special. If you've got a PS5, in my mind, there's no reason not to pick this game up. Hey, Ace, take a close look at the screen here, man. I'm not sure how much latency you've got in, but look what's about to pop out of the water. And there on the right-hand side, that'll be a dolphin.
Big of a shout out to the Chelsea Dolphins.
Yeah, oh, indeed. See you down there tomorrow, mate. But this game is fantastic. Of course, me and my old man hands, I'm limited to short, half-hour max play sessions before my hands. I just got to put the controller down. That's why I'm only 3 hours in. But I second all of Bully's comments. This game is a joy to play. In my mind, it is better than any Mario game I've ever played. I agree with you, Bully. 64 is the best, but for me, bang for buck, this game just has it in spades. This game is absolutely phenomenal. I can't wait to get back and keep playing it. Ace, is there anything that's a mystery too, or is it all making a fair bit of sense?
No, look, to be honest with you, I'm probably not the only person. When you said that this was a PlayStation basically on your hard drive, like almost like a, what was it, Astro Boy, not Astro, but Wonder Boy on the old Sega Genesis, that it was just an inbuilt game. So I was very surprised to hear that. And knowing that and having young kids, this is probably something that I'll be looking to test out and see sort of how it goes and how my young ones sort of enjoy it.
Oh, to be clear, man, it was the previous entry in this series that was free with the PS5. This one's a full purchase, just came out, but they're very similar, but this one's better. Get it, mate, get it. It's well worth the coin. Bully, if you've turned off the motion controls, how do you go here on screen? You can see the level where you got the monkey on your back and you're climbing. Like for me, that's all tilting the controller to get the arm up. How did you do it? Or does it auto seek the next handle?
So I turned it off after that point because it got to the point with a couple of the challenge levels or trying to do the collectibles. I think so. As you fly the controller into some of the levels, you had to move, side to side to get some of the collectibles, including the puzzle pieces and that sort of stuff. And just the way, I was sort of sitting playing it, I was sort of leaning to one side. So by default, it would automatically veer to the left. So then you try to get it to the right to pick up the puzzle piece. It was just becoming frustrating. So I just turned it off in the late stages of the game when I was trying to do that sort of stuff. But I didn't mind it for the most part while I was playing it. It just sort of become a bit tiresome when you're trying to do the mop up at the end of it.
Yeah, that's fair. Hey, Bully, did you play it? I've heard various people on various podcasts talk about how their method for play was they wouldn't, like their first entry into the level, they had to get every possible Astro Bot collected. Is that the way you went about it?
I tried to, for the most part, like probably 75-80%, I'd get everything in the level on the first go. But if I didn't, I'd sort of go, okay, I'm not gonna harp on that level. I'll move on to the next one and then come back to it. So I think out of all the levels, maybe I had 10 to go back to sort of do a bit of mop up at the end.
So what I want to shout out, because I haven't heard anyone talk about this feature, but you guys know how I get. Sometimes I just put the blinders on, head down, and I'm running for the end goal. So I'll be missing 4 Astro Bots or whatever, and then I'll come back and do it again. The thing I want to shout out, I love the way that when you re-enter a level you've already played, right at the start where you land, you can spend 200 coins and get the assist, like it's an extra drone sort of bot thing that floats around with you. And when you get close to a collectible or Astro Bot you haven't got yet, it starts sort of beeping and, hey, you're close to something you haven't got yet. That is absolutely such a brilliant feature. I absolutely loved it. Did you use that one at all, Billy?
Yeah, I did through the mop up. Yeah, I was the same. I think I redid a couple of levels before I actually realized it was sitting there, and I thought, oh, what's that? And then go and grab it, and it was absolutely amazing function just to do that cleanup, because we've all played platformers or collectathons or whatever it is, and that's quite often the most frustrating bit, is that one collectible you can't find in one level that you then have to try and search up and work out how it's done. Obviously it's a lot easier now in the internet days, but obviously the Mario 64 days where internet was a bit more of a rarity, it was just you had to struggle through it, work it out yourself. But that little touch of having that in there and then not having to look up a guide or a playthrough, and therefore not really spoiling it, you still, it doesn't lead you directly to the collectible as well. It just sort of says, okay, you're in the general area, and it'll increase the beeping the closer you get. But with a lot of it, you still got to work out, well, where's it hidden? How do I get there? And all that sort of stuff. So it's not entirely giving it away like it would be if you were reading a guide or watching a video of how to do it. So I reckon it was the implementation of it was fantastic.
Yeah, and Bully, as I said, I haven't played the whole thing yet, mate. Now, was this level, in your mind, a shout out to Shadow of the Colossus? This end boss of this level? I felt like I was playing Shadow of the Colossus again. I loved it.
Yeah, that's what I got from this one.
And so my follow-up question is there another instance, like is there a whole planet or galaxy or whatever of Shadow of the Colossus, or might this be the only nod to that?
I think from memory, this was the only sort of nod to it. And even levels in your main sort of, like your really big PlayStation franchises, like I mentioned before, like Uncharted has one level.
Yep.
Horizon has one level. That's it. But the way they mix it up in those levels is, so normally, as if you can see with the attacks or movement set that he's got in the game, is that it's a lot of sort of jumping around and either jumping on enemies or just sort of punching them. When you're playing through the Uncharted level, you take Nathan Drake's guns and you shoot the bots through the level. When you go through,
that's epic.
The Horizon one, you get a bow and arrow.
Nice.
And as much as that might sound, okay, that's just similar, you've got a projectile that you can fire off from it, it works completely differently. So with the guns, you can just sit there pulling the trigger and it just fires them off almost non-stop. The bow and arrow, you actually have to aim it and draw the trigger back and release it.
Did they have the that sort of half cock feel? Like the tension bow, the DualSense controller. The feel of the trigger, the way they implemented it in Horizon.
Not to the same degree. Still had that little bit of tension, but not to the same degree where you could, that last sort of 10 or 15%, you were really, pulling on the trigger to get it there.
Yeah,
it didn't quite have it that much, but it certainly had a bit of tension on it. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, that's it from my side. I'm absolutely loving this game. As I said, the only barrier is my old man hands, but this game is phenomenal. I recommend it to anyone. Bully, I happen to know the answer, but tell us, mate, how far through it are you? Are you close to platinuming it?
No, well, I think I said that before.
Yeah, he's already answered. He's already answered. Platinum boys.
I picked it up on the Friday, and by Sunday afternoon, I'd, despite having to run around with the kids' sport and all the rest of it, by come Sunday afternoon, I platinumed it. Really enjoyed the journey. I don't think it was one of those games that, even though it only took a couple of days to platinum, it was almost that perfect length where you're not there going, oh, I wish there was another 20 levels, as good as it was.
Yeah.
But then by the same token, you're also not laboring through it in the last part, sort of going, oh, I wish this is just like, as you are with a lot of platinums, you just the last sort of 15-20% or sometimes even more, you're sort of laboring the game, and you would have given it up on it a long time ago, barring the platinum that's sitting there waiting for you. So you sort of just work your way through it a little bit and then go, oh, okay, well, I've had enough of that. Whereas you never get that feeling with this game. It's almost that perfect length of working through it to get the platinum.
It is. So my final question, Bully, what number platinum is that for you this calendar year?
53, I think.
Nice work, sir. Slap a score on it and we'll move on.
10.
Nailed it. I love it. I'm right. I haven't finished it yet, so subject to change, but it is sitting at a 10 for me currently. I absolutely love it. Love everything about it. It's brilliant. Let's move on to game 2. Unless, Ace, you have any final comments, thoughts?
No, it's definitely probably going to be something that I'll look at maybe picking up. It's just sort of, having younger kids and, them sort of wanting to sit around, and sometimes we've got spaces in between sports and training and all that sort of stuff. Sometimes it's nice to be able to sit down in front of something like this and sort of not be too constrained by violence and blood and gore. So, yeah, I'll probably be giving it a crack.
Well, try it the free one first. It's sitting on your PS5.
Yeah, I'll be definitely that will be the one.
Absolutely. All right, fellas, let's move on, shall we, to game 2, which is Warhammer 40k Space Marine 2. On screen, you can see Ace and myself. So, Ace, I'll hand it over to you. Lead investigator away, my friend.
Yeah, so I'm very new to the whole 40k world, and I don't want to say anything that's going to put me in trouble with all the 40k members out there, because I know it's got a large, massive following, and the lore behind it, which I've started to dig into, is absolutely extensive and massive. And I will not be saying any of that because I don't want to get anything wrong and get us in trouble. But as far as gameplays, video styles, graphics, everything, it's amazing. Like it's sort of very refreshing in sort of its design and everything. It obviously pulls a lot from Gears of War, the old Xbox exclusive, minus the sort of duck and cover, but that feeling of being this sort of ultra hulky stoic sort of super soldier is very present in the game. I went into it thinking, it's all about shooting, and actually sort of ammunition is a little bit scarce, can be sort of in combat situations. So it's actually got pulls from a lot of a melee sort of situation where you're grabbing people as they're jumping at you and you slice them in hard with a chainsaw sword, which again from Gears of War you had the chainsaw machine gun. But yeah, I've actually really been enjoying it, just the sort of the simplicity of it, and just it's almost like a tip of the hat back to sort of the old school gaming. And you sort of your hero who's just this stoic dude who's just, I'm just going to go out there and get it done, no nonsense. And never in a situation where you're bored or you're worried about what to do. I think in this mission that we're filming right now, we actually failed this the first time that we did it, didn't we, Troy?
Oh, look, mate, I edited that out of the footage. I wasn't going to mention it, but no, you're dead right, mate. We did.
And no, Tim, we were playing it on normal difficulty, and I think I might be 8 hours in. I'm a few missions ahead of you. But, even on sort of an easier difficulty, like it's continually challenging just with the relentlessness of it all. And, you'll have these brief glimpses of sort of where you're going from one section to another, and then next thing you know, bang, it just kicks on and you're under siege and you got to move quick and you got to make quick decisions. And, if you make a bad choice, you use up your ammunition too quickly. Next thing you're under your sidearm and you've got guys from a long distance. it's just almost chaos. So it's taken me a little while to sort of more rely on the melee content side of it, and using the sword and using your ability to sort of block attacks and then sort of come back and then shoot them with the pistol and stuff like that. But yeah, it's been quite sort of just enjoyable. And I guess I quite enjoyed the Gears of War. So if you enjoy Gears of War, then you'll quite like this.
Yep.
It differs from Gears of War in the sense that Gears of War was a little bit tactical. Maybe you're only really dealing with sort of 8 enemies at a time, and you had to strategically move yourself around them. Whereas in this, you're sort of just front on, you're a sledgehammer, just go and go. And, you know, if I was to sort of pin it on a few things, the lack of sort of it having a progression system seems to be sort of one thing that I was talking to Troy about. But then Troy has then come back to me and said there is a progression system, because there's actually multiple game modes. So the main game mode is you play as Sergeant Titus, or Lieutenant Titus it is, and there's a whole backstory there, and if you want to go into it, you know, it's worth a mission. And if you played the first 40k, then you'll already know it. But you play as General Titus, who's come back into the fray after a stream, and even that opening mission was absolutely incredible.
Oh,
anyway,
yeah.
But you're a commander of a unit, so there's a whole nother game mode where there's 6 of you, but 3 of you will go off to complete a different objective. So in one of the other multiplayer game modes, and you can play the main story in multiplayer, but the other multiplayer style is you actually go and take lead of this other commando unit, and you're going and completing other objectives. Now, while you're playing the story mission, you're constantly talking about this other group, and you're talking to them, go, hey, how are you? Have you progressed to here? Are you there? And they're sort of moving along as you're both moving to an objective. But then you can play through that other side of it and be in that other control of that other commando unit. And there is the third game mode that I haven't even touched yet, because I'm still so been sucked in by the lore and sucked in by the story that I haven't even touched or picked up yet. But I believe once probably Troy and I get through the main story mode, we'll start dabbling with that sort of stuff. Look, it's an interesting, like, it's really captivated me, just in the sense that it's just full on.
Yeah.
It's just grunt, get in there, smash, kill. The blood and the gore that's splashing all over you. You're just covered in blood once you've been in like a massive big gunfight. You're chainsawing people in half. Like, things are just going hectic. And I mean, I'm at a section where for the first 4 missions, I think you're just fighting what's called the Tyranids, which have sort of loose. I would feel like have been pulled from StarCraft, and it has a very StarCraft feel about it. I don't know if you remember, like, the old Marines and the hulky armor.
Yep.
And then there was the Zerg. The Tyranids seem to be like the equivalent of the Zerg. And then what I've sort of come across now almost seems to be a mix between a Protoss / Terrans. So these guys are sort of mythical sort of Terrans with armor.
Sorry, if I could just quickly jump on while it's on screen now. This is the other game mode. This is the co-op game mode where you get to select between the 6 classes, and that's why I'm now playing. I've missed the name of it, but now it's a sledgehammer instead of the chainsaw gun. Sorry, I just wanted to explain the next 5 minutes of footage. Back to you, Ace.
Yeah, so this is something, and then this is all multiplayer as well. But then I believe there's more of a I think my understanding is the third mode is just like basically a multiplayer survival mode, where they just throw
like Horde Rush.
Yeah, something like that, and they just throw hordes at you, and you just got to try and like survive for as long as you can. So it's definitely something that I think both of us will be doing. And if we can get Bully across, I know he says he's got a massive game catalog back there, but we'll try and pull him across into it, because it is. Which is I always think this is a bit of a weird number when they're talking about having like multiplayer games, but 3,
yeah,
doesn't make a lot of sense. Like, I don't know, like, you know,
I don't have a good answer for it. My assumption would be they've done a lot of analytics on the back end, and they've found that is the common number for groups, like just in online, like groups in general that play online. Typically, it must be 3, and so they just cater to it. I'm assuming.
It seems, and look, from what I'm understanding with the lore and stuff, there seems to be something with that these guys, these spacemen, these ultramarines, sorry, don't get me, I didn't get it wrong. These ultramarines, they seem to work in teams of 3, and so they've just all brought it back. And look, the game has tweaked enough interest in me that now I'm sort of delving into it all. I want to know more about it. I want to know sort of all this thing, and the stuff that I'm just sort of gathering. I'm like, there just seems to be an endless source material there that they can keep building games like this. And if they keep building games like this, like, I'm in. Like,
yeah,
sign me up. Like, I'll get every variant of it. So I'm very much looking forward to Space Marines 3, and probably there's a good chance I might try and go back and see if I can get my hands on Space Marines 1.
Yeah, absolutely. A few points I'd like to make. One of them is, Bully, the thing I love about it, and I don't think you suffer from it, but I do. What I love about this game is it's so linear. It's like a callback to like 90s PC shooters where it was just corridor, 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 corridor. You never got lost. There's not a whole lot of, there's a few little hidden side areas, but you're never confused as to where to go. It's not open world. It is just linear, straight path, clear the area, objective marker. You got to shoot a plan or kick a wall in or whatever. And then you're into the next linear section. And, it's 4 or 5 of those back to back. And then it's the extraction ship comes in. Bring the hammer down. God, I love this class. It's my favorite class. And the cool thing about this game mode, I haven't obviously gone all the way through it, but it appears to me to be every mission from the single player. Well, it's obviously multiple, but the main campaign, you can replay all those levels, but then you can pick one of the 6 classes. Each class gets its own XP build up for the loadout, so the weapons and the armor. And then also you get the character XP for each class that then unlocks into a skill tree. So you get more and more powerful the more time you replay these missions. You're unlocking new weapons and you're getting more powers. This game has so much replay value in it. I'm just taking my first sip of the drink, and this is amazing. I can't wait to fully consume this. It is an amazing game, Billy. I can't recommend it highly enough. Now, the footage you're seeing here is off my Xbox because I picked it up on Xbox. But Ace, you're playing it on PS5, mate. So how's that DualSense controller? Anything of note there?
Look, the only big thing that I noticed and something that I told you sort of last night was make sure you turn on the auto aim feature to strong, because you can get quite lost in it sort of when you're coming across a horde or you like you said just before, it's very corridor, sort of you walk your way position, A, B, C, D, you're just moving your way through. But when you're in these battles and there's so much going on, and like I haven't done an actual count, but I sometimes feel like there could be up to 50, 60, 70, maybe 100 enemies on screen at any one time. And when you're aiming and stuff, it can be quite hard to sort of shoot and know if you're even hitting, because they don't really give you a big feedback. Like there is a sort of a little red sort of glint to let you know that you've hit something. But sometimes I've found myself just emptying entire clips. I'm like, I actually didn't kill anything there. So once I turned the auto aim feature, the lock on feature to strong, I found it was sort of a lot better because I was able to sort of, hold the L2, sort of bring the gun up, like fire 3 or 4 rounds, drop it again, click, click, click. And basically you only really use your gun up until they get to sort of maybe 10 meters away, and then you just put that away and you just bring out the sword. But that would be, other than that, like via the PlayStation, that would be my only suggestion, because your character does take up a large section of the screen. And like I said, when there's so much going on, and sometimes these guys are coming from behind you, left, right, and center, and you're getting swarmed from the back, you can get a little bit lost just to sort of in the navigating of it.
That you can. Bully, if you look on screen here, man, so this is the end of the first mission. I believe it's the first mission. And you can just see you're sort of defending these 3 helipads. And watch it as they come in here, Bully. Just the swarms. You just get absolutely swarmed by all these monsters coming in. And the Xbox 360, Xbox Series X, I should say, doesn't skip a beat. It's phenomenal. It looks to me almost damn near silky smooth 60 frames a second, even when hundreds of enemies are coming at you. And then they've got I feel like I've seen at least 20 different execution types, and the parries as they come in flying at you. You grab them depending on your class is how you melee finish them off. But there's no shortage of animations like this one here where you're either ripping them in half or stabbing them through the guts. It's just blood and gore, and it is a fantastic time. I'm loving everything about it. Bully, what do you think, mate? Is it something you're going to invest in?
Well, it's one of those things, and it's funny that you had that Freudian slip of the Xbox 360, because that's, and I think Ace, you mentioned it before as well. It does have that real, macho. That's probably the best way to describe it, is the big macho Xbox 360 period. That we went through for most of that generation, and especially with the Xbox side, it was all about alpha males and all that sort of stuff. And it's funny because I know it's not quite the same game, but it does remind me of Evil West, I think it was called. Was a bit of
Yeah,
a
yeah.
throwback a couple of years ago that had that
Yep.
big alpha male set in an alternate, American West in the 1800s. It's almost got that sort of vibe to it, where it's doesn't take itself overly seriously, but it's a hell of a lot of fun from what it is.
Yeah.
So that's what I pick up out of it. It does look quite good, to be honest with you. And I think I said to you before the show, Troy, I don't think it's really, it's the Warhammer franchise is not really one that I've ever really been interested in. But having a look at it, it doesn't actually look too bad. And for what you were saying as well, Ace, the actual lore of it is quite complex, but also pretty easy to get through as well. Like there's different things you can look at or read or videos you can watch to sort of bring you up to speed. And is there much? I guess probably the biggest thing being the second one is there. Sometimes when you play a second game, you jump into it and you sort of go on, who's that character? What's going on? Like, does it? Despite the fact that you can go away and have a look at all these different things, does it sort of drag you along through the game as well, or are you expected to know what's happened in the first one?
No, that's a very interesting point. Something that I found, and I could being completely new to this, so I was just attracted to it by the graphics and the gore and like just the hardcore sort of style that it sort of portrayed. But as I've been playing through, your character's interaction with the rest of your squad, they're actually informing you of all the things that happened in the previous game. So you're actually getting all the information from the first game. So I actually then went back in today and I was watching a video and I'm like, oh, I knew that because he talked about this and that was when he said this. So I watched a video and a gameplay of basically the story of the first game. It's quite incredible. I think probably like the big throw off is everyone sees Warhammer 40K. They go, oh, tabletop gaming. And so it throws everybody off. But like once you get past that veil and like there's this whole expansive world and it pulls from so many different things. It's got stuff from religion, it's got stuff from StarCraft, it's got stuff from Gears of War, Evil West, you can say, like it's just pulling from all these source materials and it's just all bringing it all together and going, here you go, and there you go, have a look at this little package that we've got for you. It's I'm getting sucked in and I might be buying myself some paint because I might start getting into tabletop gaming. That's where I'm at the moment. I'm going to start painting soldiers. There, I'm going to set up my bar. It's just going to be a paint station, and I'll just be painting little figurines from now on.
You've got a fairly blank canvas sitting behind you. I want to see the shelving up. I want to see
some stuff up here.
Up. Yeah. I want to see that sitting above your head next time.
Now, I don't have it on hand, so I can't do it live, but after the show, I'll tweet out a picture of Ace's man cave, and you will not believe the renovation he's done to it. Warhammer style. It's amazing. It'll be up on at Geek Aloud on Twitter. Well, it's not Twitter anymore, is it? It's X.
Warhammer / Dragon Ball Z / Run.
And here's the big X fill at the end. It's reminiscent of what's I'm looking for, Helldivers.
Oh, yes, it's got a bit of Helldivers.
Yeah,
it's a bit of Helldivers as well. Like it's just
jump on the extraction ship, off you go, boom, XP up the wazoo. It's phenomenal. I give it 2 thumbs up. Yeah,
I will say this, like, which is sort of like an interesting sort of pull away, and then in a lot of senses that this makes it a big throwback. It's not a comedy. It's very serious. Everything in the game is very serious. You feel like the tension every time, every mission that you go on. There's like a specific thing, and this has to happen, otherwise this is going to happen. And like you feel like you're sort of endowed with this like responsibility. That and all the characters, the way they speak to each other, like it's just this boom, boom. It's a very straight. This is what we need to do. It's like, whoa, like it just feels very. Which I kind of feel like everything that I've been playing recently in sort of all the games, there's always like a little tinge of sort of comic relief. And like if you go back all the Marvel movies, like I feel I started dipping too much into it. So this is a nice little, just hey, we're going to go back. Here it is. It's all very serious. Get out there, get the mission done. It's a great game. If I was giving it a rating, 10 out of 10 is very high, and I try and hold that grading for a very special game. So I'm probably going to give this a 7.5 and 8, which is a really good score.
Yeah, it's sitting at an 8 for me as well, man. It's fantastic. I can't wait to put some more hours into it. Potentially just after this episode concludes, I'll be looking for a co-op, buddy, Ace, if you don't have much on. But I think that'll do it. Unless, Bully, any questions?
No, all good, I think. All
right.
good. You've got me intrigued.
Excellent. Well, there's 3 of us on here, and the game supports 3 players. No pressure, Bully. But you know what, mate? There's an invite on the table for you when you're ready. Shall we move on into the news segment, Bully?
We can, and I think this week we've got obviously the biggest highlight of this week was the PlayStation State of Play. So we've got a few entries out of that. I think fairly mixed in terms of the response. I was probably pretty positive about it. There was a couple of things in there that I just thought were almost filler type things, and we're just trying to pad it out a little bit. But in terms of the overall show itself, I guess you call it a show, I think it was actually pretty good. It showed us some things that we didn't know were coming. It showed us a bit more of things we did know were coming, and I thought it wasn't too bad. And the probably the highlight, I think, for a lot of people, depending on whether you read too much into the outrage over the main character, was the follow-up to Ghost of Tsushima, or Tsushima, however you want to pronounce it, which is going to lead me into how the hell do you pronounce this one. But Ghost of Yotai, I think it is.
Yoti? We're going to say Yoti?
Yotai.
Yoteo?
I wish they had said it, because I don't know how to say
it. The follow-up to the previous Ghost game with a new protagonist. So I think it looked really good. I played through and platinumed the original Ghost game. I thought it was an amazing game. The way that the world was set up, and you know, for an open world that didn't really have that Ubisoft trope of here's 50,000 waypoints and map markers and all the rest of it. You just sort of went through it and worked it out yourself. Was a great way of doing it, and hopefully they throw that into this as well, and just more of the gameplay and the different. I think there was different fighting stances in the original one. I don't think I ever recall changing my stance once, but
you had to change your stance, because remember, like, each stance would allow you to defeat different enemies. So like the shielded guy, you had to use like a certain stance, which was like a heavy attack stance. And then there was like the guy with the twin swords who had a quick attack. So then you had to have like a quick attack stance to be able to them. There was the pike guy, and then you had to have a stance for that. And like, yeah. And then there was like your sort of general when you were going through and you had to fight everyone. But yeah, the first Ghost of Tsushima was absolutely mint. And, you know, and I might be sort of one of those people on the wagon where I feel like, you know, they're showing us that the protagonist is a certain gender, and the fact that they're not giving us the option, well, so far it appears, to not give us the option to sort of choose what style we want to play or what type. Like, it just feels like this is becoming a common trope with a lot of video games these days, where you're sort of getting pigeonholed into this is what you got and enjoy it. And if you don't, then you're a bigot.
Well, it just depends on what, and that I think we were talking about it before as well. I think it just, for me, it really just depends on, you know, I took out of it that there's another character that's in it, along with Jin. So there's 2 of you that you potentially play as both characters, or as another character introduced, or whatever it is. That's the way I sort of took it. But I think from what you're saying, Ace, is you just took it as that's the main. Well, that's going to be the main character in the actual game itself, and we just sort of move on from there. But I suppose that's one of the things you don't know until either we're a bit closer or you get your hands on the game and play it. But just in that respect as well, we did get a release of 2025. I don't think there was a time frame within that 12 months, but certainly coming next year at this stage, and absolutely looking forward to it.
I think they're going to wait till Ubisoft announces when they're releasing the next Assassin's Creed, then they're going to drop it a week before just to kill their sales. Back to the conversations to the main character. I've just, and my apologies, there was a slight technical hitch, but we've resolved it now. Now it's the head of the trailer again. But I thought in this cutscene, I thought this was the protagonist from number 2 killing the protagonist from number 1. Now, I haven't played Ghost of Tsushima in probably a year or so at this point, but isn't that the protagonist there from number 1? And then doesn't the protagonist from number 2 finish him?
Don't tell me that.
That's how I read it. That when I watch it, I'm like, oh my God, the protagonist from number 2 opens up by killing the protagonist from number 1.
Not a Last of Us. Not a Last of Us 2 scenario again.
Oh, you can't do that again.
I've got no idea. This is wild speculation from me paying half attention.
I like it.
But I think it's like moments away. This next shot, assuming I haven't done something stupid. Here, doesn't she run him through? Isn't it just like bang, and then you see him die, and then she's off to the races?
I don't know.
You've tweaked some stuff. All I'm basing my
There,
stuff off.
look, he's fallen, bang, he's dead, and then she's on the horse, and here we go, game number 2. That was just I haven't read, I haven't looked at anything. That was just me looking at the trailer from the state of play and going, oh, that's an interesting way to start the game.
Don't know. I guess we'll see. We'll see when it comes out. Again, these are all the unknowns that I think, and that was probably one of the things that the internet being what it is, but people just pick one thing out and then it's just a pile on for it. But the reality is we don't know. Like, okay, you've got this character. Is that the main character for the whole game? Is what we've just seen there, if it is in fact this new character that's taking G.E.A out, is that at the start of the game? Is that middle of the game? Is that inadvertently throwing something out that's late game? You don't know.
No, I've got no idea. I just love wildly speculating.
Yeah. Well, from the common trope these days seems to be that like they're removing a lot of these sort of male stoic characters and they're replacing with like female sort of stoic characters. So
one question for you on that, Ace. Any idea on how the sales are representing that change? Games are selling better now than ever, aren't they?
It doesn't seem to be appearing all that good. And look, I've said comments before that when you're playing a game, for someone like myself, when I'm playing a game, I like to sort of it's very hard to sort of put myself in that person's shoes. And I don't know why, if this is the route that they've taken, like these people have the ability to give you the choice of choosing your character. And it can't be that hard to write out the dialogue and copy mat a mapping of someone over the top. Like they can't be doing this sort of stuff where they just pigeonhole you into one gender and they say, there you go. And because I think it does in a lot of senses alienate people. Now, they could be having the greatest game of all time, but if you're trying to connect with the character and you're of a certain gender and you can't connect with them, then you're just not going to connect with the game. You're not going to enjoy it as much, And
to that point, mate, I bounced off Star Wars Outlaws in 2 hours. I was done. I'm like, no thanks.
Yeah, you can't connect, and you're not sort of like sympathizing because we don't know sort of what they're going through. It's a little bit, you just feel, so I don't understand what this new idea is. So, hey, we're just going to, and I know, look, going back, women gamers have forever had to play the roles of stoic males, and I'm not saying that was the right thing to do. Let's just give everyone the option. And I think, Bully, we were talking before, all the Assassin's Creed Valhallas and that, they've given you the option to choose your gender. So I don't know why we're going down this road of this is it.
And the funny thing, it opens it up anyway, because I'm pretty sure I know with Odyssey, and I'm pretty sure with Valhalla, you're given that choice of male and female. I chose a female protagonist for both of those games.
Yeah.
For the setting and the way the character was portrayed and all the rest of it, I just thought I will we'll mix it up a bit and I'll choose a female character, and we're playing obviously through Odyssey first. It really fit the bill of that game, and so then I'll go and play Valhalla and I choose a female character again because the previous game fit it so well. So I think just giving you that choice and allowing you to, whether you can immerse yourself in the game or you just identify with one or the other better, or however it works, or you mix and match between it. I think that's the way going forward, is just give the player their own agency and say, well, okay, who do you want to play in this game? Is it male, female, or whatever it is? You just say, okay, this is the options we've got. Don't pigeonhole it. And as you perfectly said, is yes, females have had to play as male characters for a long time, and that's changing. But why not just open it up for everyone to choose whoever they want? Really,
the answer there is perfectly simple, and we know that we have the technology, and these game developers have the technology, and the gaming industry is worth billions of dollars. Like, you guys, you're just alienating, and I'm not saying all of your potential buyers of the game, but you're alienating a section which has probably got to be worth more money to them if they just give everyone the option. Here you go, there you go, here's the option. It's no skin off our nose. Go and play the game that you want to play, and play it how you want to play it, and play it with the character that you want to play it with. But don't say, here's the character, that's it, and you've got no choice about it. Like, it just seems very frustrating that we're going down this route, and I don't know why they're doing it. And I just wish that, like you say, Ubisoft with the Assassin's Creed series said, hey, and once you give me the choice and the ability to choose who I want to play, then I'm going to go through and make that choice. And whatever choice I make, then I'm going to enjoy the game because the choice was mine. Don't make me choose to play a character that I can't then sort of associate with.
Indeed. Now, jumping entirely because I'm easily distracted. Is anyone here up on physics? I've got a really silly question. At one point, they show off in the horizon, what do you call it? The night sky, Northern Lights, Aurora Borealis. Yeah, that the green. I thought that was only able to be seen at the poles of the planet. I didn't think you could see it if you're around the equator. Am I way off base on that?
No, it's not the equator. You can see it. There's northern hemisphere countries that you can see it from.
But you've got to be like way up north, right?
Fairly well up, yeah.
Yeah, and this is set in or around Japan, which is pretty much on the equator.
No, it's way north of the equator.
Oh, is it? Well,
yeah.
There's me showing my naivete, and you with your where in the world is Carmen San Diego knowledge bully coming in strong.
There you go. I knew it was good for something. Speaking of controversies, we jump over to the next one that was revealed. It's been out on Xbox for some time and PC as well, I think. But Power World was released yesterday at the same time as the showcase or state of play. And the controversy around this is, I think in the last week or so, the Nintendo have actually sued the developers and producers of Power World for use of the similar characters, I guess you'll put it, to Pokemon, and you can see some of them on screen. To be honest with you, I think this came out about 18 months ago on the other systems. I'm surprised it's taken this long.
Here's my question for you on this, Bully. Is this game going to be on the PSN longer, yes or no, than Concord?
I think there'll be a compromise reached, so yes. Although I'd be interested to see, because I missed out on getting the physical version of Concord, which is now, we know what scalpers are like.
Yeah, do we have a price? Do you have a current price?
Last time I saw it was 200-ish Australian.
Holy moly.
That's
what, 3 bottles of milk?
Yeah, 3 bottles of milk, which is what they're trying to sell it for. So I don't think there is a physical version. Otherwise, I'd be all over it. But interesting to see that it is released in the middle of that sort of furor. So that's sort of either one or two things, that the company that is making it is pretty confident that they'll be able to work their way through it, or they're just throwing it out there hoping they can get as much money as they can before it gets shut down.
Yes.
One of the two.
Yeah, from my side, I put maybe half an hour, 45 minutes into Pal World on Xbox when it came out, and just it doesn't do it for me. So good on them for getting them on another platform, but it really doesn't float my boat. Have you jumped in? Are you jumping into Pal World on PS5, Billy?
No, well, I was the same. I did maybe a couple of hours when it released on Game Pass on the Xbox, and for all the hubbubaloo of the Pokemon-esque characters that they have in it, or the pals, or whatever you want to call them, it's more of a survival type game, to be honest with you. And instead of going hunting animals and foraging for food and all the rest of it, these are just the animals in the world that you then go and hunt, and the side parties that you can just capture them and use them to fight on your behalf. Not dissimilar to Pokemon, but they're actually instead of one-on-one fight with another one, you're actually they're almost like another character in your party as you go out and fight. So that's sort of, I suppose, a little bit of a difference, but not sure I'll be jumping into it. We'll see how it goes. It was I think it was $40 odd Australian, so probably about 30 odd US. So probably not a bad price. I think it'll entice a few people, and from my understanding, there's been quite a few PlayStation only players that have been hanging out for it, given that it's probably 12 or 18 months past the other platforms.
Oh, well, good on them. Hope they enjoy it. It's not for me. I won't be picking it up.
No, but we'll move on to the expansion of the game we spoke about before, Astro Bot. So they've already announced an expansion to the challenge levels that I was talking about before, which are coming for free later this year, which is probably a pretty quick turnaround, and one I'm surprised at, because normally any DLC, whether it's free or paid for, these days it's you can be waiting 12, 18 months, 2 years in some cases for DLC to come out. So I'm really hopeful that this does well, and it sort of shows that you need that quick turnaround, because quite often people will get the game, they'll play through it, finish it, or they'll be done with it in whatever capacity they're done with. And by the time the DLC rolls around in that 1 to 2 year time frame, and I've certainly been there myself, is that I go, okay, yeah, well, I've sort of had my time with that game. I don't really want to go back into it and pay, the equivalent of half the price of the game again to get into some DLC. When I've had my time, I've moved on, I'm done with it.
Yeah.
So the fact that they're getting the turnaround within, as I said, by the end of the year, so inside of 3 months, effectively, they're going to have a turnaround on DLC. I think it's a really good move.
I didn't know Helldivers were getting a shout out. That's awesome.
Yeah, that was in the what's her name from Stellar Blade? Eve, is it Eve?
That does, yeah, Eve, yeah.
Eve from Stellar Blade. They were the two main new bots that you saw in the trailer there. But great to see that quick turnaround, and because of that quick turnaround, I'll certainly be jumping into that, especially if there's some extra trophies I have to mop up to get myself back up to 100%.
Yes, indeed, you will. Ace, is that one going to make you, is that enough to push you over the limit, man? You're going to definitely pick it up now, or maybe in a couple of months when the DLC comes?
Yeah, look, I'll just wait till the price is right, effectively, and then sort of if the timing's right and there's not much else out there that's tweaked my interest. But we're living in a pretty good gaming era at the moment.
Oh yeah,
where there's always seems to be something coming out and always something that's got you sort of a little bit tickling in the nether region. So look, it's sometimes hard, and it's really with gaming, it all has to come down to timing, effectively, and whether you've got the spare time. I tell you what, I'm not looking forward to is any more remastered. Can we just?
We'll get to that. But
is there more? Is it remastered?
Speaking of tickling in the nether regions, Dragon Age: The Veilguard drops at the end of October. So this is obviously BioWare. Been a bit of a rocky road lately. I think their last major release was Anthem, which that bombed. As big as anything I've ever seen. A major developer push out. So
Concord?
The last Dragon Age was about 10 years ago, and that garnered a lot of Game of the Year discussions when it came out. So hopefully we're up to that sort of level again, because I've got a fair bit of ground to make up. But that drops 31st of October this year. So a bit more of a trailer there. Probably, I had a little bit of interest in it, but seeing the trailer, I think, sort of pushed me over the edge. I reckon this will be a day one for me.
Oh, yeah. Hardcore. Nice.
Yeah, I was a big fan of the previous Dragon Age. I think Inquisition,
yeah,
threw me off a little bit, and it was the Dragon Age before that where they
Dragon Age 1 and 2 were epic.
Yeah, so when they moved from the pure turn-based combat, and they moved it into more of a pressing buttons, and you waited till your ability sort of recharged up. That's sort of I was able to get a little bit more engaged. But then Inquisition, it almost unless you've got the ability to just sit down and just immerse yourself for 8 hours and just sort of lock in, it sort of lost me a little bit. So if this sort of goes back to sort of that 1 and 2, where you have the ability to sort of jump on for an hour, jump off, jump on for an hour, jump off, rather than sort of, and then, losing your place, then this would probably be definitely something that I'll be picking up also.
Yeah, nice. I'll wait and see the reviews. As I said, I was a big fan of Dragon Age 1 and 2, and if I can find a couple of reviews saying this is back to that, I'll be all in, but I shall be waiting for those reviews. Oh.
And Ace, just the one that you've asked for, speaking of remakes that nobody wanted, Horizon Zero Dawn remake. What are we doing? What are we doing? This game's not even 10 years old. It's already got if I'm not mistaken, it's already got a PlayStation 5 patch on it. Why are we releasing this?
Oh my god!
Because they need to start paying back the development costs for Concord.
Yeah, well, they're dropping Lego Horizon in. I think that got a release date as well, so mid-November for Lego Horizon, which for me, that'll be a day one for me as well. Lego Horizon, I love my Lego games. So
my boys are red hot for any Lego game.
I'll be all over that. I don't understand why we need this. It's what are we talking about? 7, maybe 8-year-old game. Go back into your IP and your library, Sony. There's stuff that is stuck on the PS2 and the PS3 that would be, and even go back to the PS1 in some cases, that are primed for remakes, remasters, updates, whatever you want.
Infamous 1, Infamous 2.
Infamous.
Gimme.
Infamous, Kill Zones.
Oh yeah, Killzone, please.
You know, all those sort of games that you can't play because of the lack of backwards compatibility with the PS3. Start plugging some of those out and trying to. You give them to, you know, these companies that have made a name for themselves, like Bluepoint, for just sitting there and doing remakes and remasters. They don't have to come up with any fresh ideas. Everything's already there. They just need to polish it and then throw
Shadow of
it
the
back out.
Colossus.
And then we're not talking about $200-300 million on Concord. We're talking about $50 million on something you're going to triple or more your money on. That baffles me.
Here's an idea: just stop making remakes and remasters. Just release the original game. Like I'd love to know what the overall cost of taking an original game and then repolishing it and adding some graphics and making it run on a 60 frame. Like, how much does that cost? Like, there's obviously a cost associated with that versus like just putting that into the next IP, working on the next Horizon Zero Dawn. Like you said, games like, where's Infamous 3? Like, Infamous, I thought was like a really good series. They just let it go. Games like, I don't know, Prototype. I thought like this is like a really good sort of premise, like, but then they can't, and they just, all these companies just go, oh, we're just going to remake it and remaster it, repackage it, and then you go buy it, and what do you think? And it's like, well, it's the same game, it's the same story, and I feel like for a lot of people, most of the appeal to games is that introduction into a new world with a new lore, with a new story.
Yep.
If you already know sort of what's happening around the corner, oh, this is when this has happened, oh, that was where I got that Easter egg, or this is like what. Most people, I can imagine most people are just like, I'm not going to spend $20, $30, $40, $50 just so I get 60 frames per second with a polished.
No, well, you've already got 60 frames per second on this game on a PS5 anyway, mate. So that's not a sales point.
That's what I mean. It just seems ridiculous that we keep going in this, and I feel like it's happening in Hollywood, where they're almost like running out of ideas. Like there's so many ideas in the world. There's so much stuff that like can be ground and brought up.
It's not a lack of ideas; it's a lack of balls to execute on the good ideas. That's what's missing.
Like what we talked about ages ago, Troy. Where's our open world Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles game?
Please.
With the open city, you can play through the turtles, climbing the walls. Like, where is it? Like,
sign me up.
Like, come on. Like, this is like your guys, sort of Ubisoft. Like you've done Assassin's Creed. It's very easy to map like a Ninja Turtle onto a modern day an Ezio and have you climbing walls and stuff and performing like stealth kills. Come on, like guys, like let's just get with the program.
Well, I think that's the thing though, is that, and we've mentioned it a couple of times already. Concord, you spend 8 years and hundreds of $1 millions developing that, and it turns out to be a flop.
Turns out you're acting like that was a surprise.
I'm not saying it's a surprise.
From the first reveal trailer, I don't know anyone who was like, "Oh, that looks like good."
Yeah, but then we're talking about 5 or 6 years into development. My sort of point is though, is if you're talking about, and this is where the reluctance to come up with new IP is and push it out, is because you're taking that massive risk that's going to cost you a couple $100 million, which could fold your company if you don't get it right. Whereas, you look at 10, 15, 20 years ago, PS2, PS1 even, that you could pump a game out for a couple of $1 million. You might make your money back and make a little bit extra, and that funds your next game. And it wasn't that big a deal. I think that's the problem is now what we expect is to such a high degree that when it doesn't make that mark, then it fails to sell and it fails to make the money back. But they've had to invest so much into it to try and get the gamers interested in the first place, if that sort of makes sense.
My counterpoint to that would be Vampire Survivors. New IP, released 2 years ago? Sold a gazillion copies.
Yeah, I don't disagree. But
there's good ideas out there. There are people making good games. Like, I don't know why the big heavy hitters, your Sonys, your Ubisofts, why have they taken their eye off the ball? It's a mystery.
Well, but that's where I think Sony's focus has gone. They've gone into we are top tier, fantastic production value, top of the line everything, and the only way you can maintain that is to spend hundreds of millions of dollars to maintain it. Whereas if you get a little indie developer that puts together Vampire Survivors for I don't know how much that'd cost. If it was more than a couple of million, I'd be surprised.
No,
But
well, it was a student project. It was one
well, there you
bloke.
go.
It was one bloke made it in uni, and then 3 of his other uni mates were like, "Hey, that's pretty good. Let's put some more time into it." That was the first release of the game.
Yeah, so there you go, and that's what I mean. Is Sony aren't taking those risks with those smaller games and saying, "Okay, well, we'll give you $500,000 to do this, um, or $1 million to make this game. If we don't make that back, we'll write it off as a loss, but at least have a go at it." That's the level that we're missing from PlayStation at the moment. I think Sean Layden said it on his way out of Xbox before
Out of PlayStation, you mean?
before old Krispy Kreme took over. That he said this 7 or 8 years ago. It's not sustainable as an industry. It's not sustainable spending that amount of money on just developing AAA multi-$100 million games and relying on that as your business model. You need those intermediary games, and you need those lower tier games to keep ticking over and keeping the revenue coming in. So I suppose that's why we're getting them. And as much as we all sit here and criticize it, the fact is that we're probably going to continue to get them for years to come.
They're the platform holders, Sony, PlayStation. They set the tone. They're in charge. They're running the ship. How are they not hitting winners constantly? I just don't understand how uni projects can be mega hits with bugger all money, and then them with all their hundreds or thousands of employees and millions of dollars are churning out this shit. What's going on?
Well, I suppose this is the problem, though, is because we're the lack of competition at the moment. So Nintendo's operating in a different sphere. We might be getting the Switch 2 at some point, but currently they're operating on technology that is inferior to the PS4, really. Xbox being almost non-existent for the last couple of years. They've got some things in the pipeline, but they really haven't been that competitive they have in the past. So Sony can pretty much do what they please. And if Sony decide that they're going to spend $100 million to make a game and make 500 million out of it, okay, that being the odd exception. But you look at all the rest of the stuff they put out. We will spend this money to make back this money. 9 times out of 10, the games like Concord aside, they will make that money back. So I guess that's their business model at the moment. And in lieu of any actual real competition to push them in that lower tier space, I think we're just going to continue down this track.
Yeah. Well, I hope they pull their socks up. What's the chance they release some new hardware, Billy?
Well, we saw today the pre-orders for the PS5 Pro that strangely came in 2 different variants. So at the same time, on the same day, they have released the PS5 Pro, standard edition of the PS5 Pro that went up for pre-orders. And at the exact same time, they had the very, very limited edition, which blows my mind. But in any event, the very limited edition, I think about 13,000 worldwide, 30th anniversary edition of the PS5 Pro, plus the PS5 Slim, and then the accessories with the DualSense Edge and the PlayStation Portal that all dropped today. So I'm not sure how it was in other places around the world, but certainly in Australia, I think the 2 places that you could get the PS5 Pro 30th anniversary edition, you had to be a top tier member of EB Games or GameStop for those in the Americas.
Yep.
Or one of the other local electronic stores, JB Hi-Fi. You basically go into a ballot next week to decide whether you can actually buy one of these. But in the interim, do you buy the standard PS5 Pro, or do you wait and see how you go in the ballot? But then if you miss out on the ballot, all the pros are sold out. Like, it sort of boggles my mind a little bit. And then obviously the other part that goes with the PS5 Pro is the lack of disk drives that are available now, because the scalpers all saw what was coming and sell them for double and triple the price on eBay, and you can't get them anyway.
That is an absolutely deliberate manufactured shortage by Sony. I don't know what kind of games they're playing. They've got something cooking.
It's genius. Because at the end of the day, the buyer sets the price and the buyer sets the demand. And if you release lower than what the demand is, then the price goes up because more people want it. The more people want it, then they have the availability to buy it. And so therefore, and we saw it with the PS5, you know, and you could say during COVID, they, you know, the chips and stuff, but it was actually quite a, like, strategically wise, you know, and then all of a sudden your neighbor gets one or one of your mates gets one. And so what do? You go out, and I paid overs for my PS5 secondhand because I was just like, I can't wait anymore. I can't wait anymore. And now, like, you can just walk in and buy a PS5 off the shelf anywhere. So, you know,
I suppose my only issue with that is it's not Sony getting the money though. So Sony, irrespective of where they're selling it for the same price to whoever. And then now there's none in the shops, and your legitimate consumer that wants it, that's going to buy it to then buy the software that goes with it, which is where they make their money. They're the ones that are having to pay over. So if they're paying double the price for the console, for instance, well, that's $400-500 in software sales that are going out the door to Sony because they now don't have that disposable income. That's where my issue is with it.
Is there any? Sorry, mate.
No, and I was just going to say, if you temper expectation and say, okay, well, at release, and you use the Pro, for example, I think that's still up and available for pre-order in most Australian stores. But
yeah, I checked just before we came on air. EB,
yeah, but that 30th anniversary console. So why only produce 12 or 13,000 of them when you've got loyal customers for 30 years that look at that and go, I don't want it because it's something I'm going to make money out of. I want it because, hey, I was there when the original PS1 came out, and it's a fantastic nostalgia and throwback to me. I want it to be able to sit on my shelf and look at it because I think it looks great, and the accessories that go with it are fantastic. Why not produce 500,000 of them?
Yeah.
Or why not take them by order and say, hey, yep, no worries, we've got your order for one. The current wait time on those is 3 months. You'll get it in 3 months once it's manufactured and shipped.
Yeah.
If that was the process, I think most people would understand it and go, okay, no worries. I'm happy to wait for 3 months then. That's fine. I'll give you the money up front and I'll wait 3 months and I'll get it.
I suppose it's a good indicator to find out how much demand there is by releasing limited stock, because then they can speak to all the suppliers, your JBs, GBs, and like, oh, how much interest have you got? And then they'd be like, mate, it's gone through the roof. Oh, no, mate, we really haven't had a lot of interest. And so therefore they can gauge how much they put into it. Because I mean, there's I believe, like, wasn't it like $500 to make a PS5?
Oh, I can't remember the numbers.
There was something about it cost about $500 selling.
I remember the number did come out, but I can't grab it right now.
Yeah,
well, I think the PS5 was one of the first consoles that they've manufactured since the PS1 or 2 that actually made money off the console sales. So the PS3 and the PS4 were losing money on console sales with the idea that they'd make the money back on the back end with software sales and all the rest of it. So I think that, off the top of my head, I think they were making about $50 per console.
Yeah. Now, sorry, before it's just come back to me. Is there any chance, Bully, the shortage of the external reader, the shortage of those, is there any chance the reason they didn't produce enough of those was just the lesson learned from the PSVR 2?
I see. This is where I get a little bit of conspiracy theory about me. So,
where's your tinfoil cap?
If you limit the capability to purchase media on disc, and you are forcing the consumer to buy it off your store in a monopolistic approach because you can't buy it anywhere else, you now take 100% of the revenue.
Yep.
Whereas if you have it digitally, if you have it physically, you have these, production costs in the disc, which aren't really that much, but then there's shipping, and then there's, the merchant takes their cut and all the rest of it. And then if it doesn't sell, then, you're taking a loss. Whereas you can just sit it on the store at the price you want and make your money off it, and you get 100% rip off it. So
you think it's a bit of training in process?
For me, that's where I think the undercurrent of it lies, is that
that's fair.
Sony really are wanting that digital storefront only.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense.
And that's where they're really pushing it. So I think that's where the limitation with the drives come from. But that to me doesn't explain a digital console in the 30th anniversary edition being in such limited supply that you in effect can't get it unless you're just straight out lucky. And by the way, I've already forked out X amount of money for the PS5 Pro, but then next week when I win the ballot, I now have to fork out another lot of money, and
you will, won't you, mate?
Or take them both and sell one, or what? Like, what am I doing with it? I don't know.
I reckon you will be playing the PS5 Pro sort of generic one, and then just on the shelf behind you, just to show off every episode, you're going to have the limited edition just there to make everyone drool.
Yeah, and then when my wife sees the credit card bill, it'll be, no, it's an investment in the future. It's an investment in the future.
Mm-hmm. Look, I remember I wanted WWK 24, the wrestling game. Anyway, like to go on the PlayStation Store was $119. You know, months and months after release. Anyway, found it at JB Hi-Fi for $50. So I went and bought it for $50, and then now it's getting released on the store for free. But the price never changed on the PlayStation Store. They had it at $119. If you wanted it digital, it was $119. But the fact that I could walk into JB and give them $50, so it makes perfect sense because they just monopolize the market by having everything digital. And it's like I had to buy. So I'm an NFL fan, so I had to buy the Madden College 24, and you could not buy that in stores. You only could buy that digital, and I think I spent $120 on that as well. You know, whereas
a physical copy of it cost me 120 Australian, so it was exactly the same.
How'd you get it?
There's I'll talk to you about it later. There's a company
might not be kosher.
No, it's kosher. I'll just tell you where you get it from. There's a company in not far from where you are that sells them.
Oh, sweet. Well, see, I wish I knew that. But again, but like you say, like they make a digital bang, so everyone gets like the flair. Oh, more, more this. You get a little bit more glitz and glamour. And, it's only digital, so now you're forced down that path. But I believe people like ourselves, we're all collectors, and we like having the actual physical copy of the game, even though it just ends up taking up space in my garage. But there's something about possessing something. When I buy something and I actually get to hold it in my hand, that sort of I don't think can be replicated. But anyway, good on Sony.
And that's always been my concern with it, though, is we've seen games delisted off stores. That it's becoming more and more frequent that we do that. So you're not actually purchasing. When you get it digitally, you're not actually purchasing the game itself. You're purchasing the right to be able to play it on the console that you've currently got. Whereas if you have the disc, you've always got the disc. Now, you might not be able to get updates for it and all the rest of it, but you've still got the disc. And you could blow up the internet tomorrow. I can still pull a disc off my shelf, plug it in, and go, yep, I'm good to go.
May I present to you Exhibit A? Cyberpunk version 1.0 on the disc. Who remembers that train wreck?
It was a good time.
It's a good time, and because I've got it physically, they can never patch it away from me. I can always just install version 1.0 of Cyberpunk and enjoy that for the craziness that it was. That's part of the thing they're taking out of it by making us go digital. I think it's a shame. Keep it physical.
I do too, but I think it's inevitability as much as I dislike it. I think it's inevitable at some point. I hope we can hang out as long as we can, but I suppose it is what it is. And
the key would be if they could somehow make it a multi-market, so Sony didn't have the sole ownership. So JB Hi-Fi, EB Games, your GameStops, they had a third-party portal that you could then download games from. Release it to all of them, let everyone compete, and make it a buyer's market, and have the ability. So Sony is sort of, again, they're now distributing just the data to these companies and saying, we will give you the ability to sell, and let them sell it at like reduced costs like that. So similar to a JB Hi-Fi big games that when you walk into, we can now have that option to have it at home. That would be the only instance that I think I would ever go fully digital. But until I'm sort of given a multi sort of marketed option, I'm sticking with discs.
Fair enough. All right, Billy, what's our final one for the evening, please, mate?
Final one, and a quick one that got dropped just this afternoon was, and we've discussed Assassin's Creed a couple of times, but that has been delayed. It was supposed to come out in a couple of weeks, I think. It's been delayed till February at this stage.
Do we have a specific date, February?
I can find out for you. They did. I did have it up before, but they haven't really cited any issues as to why they've dropped it. But as I said before, there's been some controversy in relation to the main character being, I think, African American, set in feudal Japan, which, from what I haven't looked into it, but from what I understand, there was actually an African American in feudal Japan who became a samurai. Not sure about the legitimacy of that, but in any event, That's who they've chosen as their main character for this one. And there's been a bit of uproar that, well, it's set in Japan. Why don't you use a Japanese character? Which doesn't make much sense. But
that'd be like setting a game in Boston and then not having any Boston accents.
be crunching. But there's partly that, and the other part of me that sort of looks at it goes, well, just the day before we saw the new Ghost game trailer drop as well, which is obviously set in a similar time period and a similar setting. I don't know how much they've seen that and gone, oh, we're way off the mark with this. We need to go away and polish it up. But how much you can polish it up in 3 or 4 months, I'm not sure. So
well,
I really don't know where to go with it.
Well, I can point to Suicide Squad. Didn't they give that 18 months extra for polish? The initial release?
I don't think it was that long. I reckon it was 6 to 12, maybe.
Oh, well, so they've pushed this back 6 to 12. We can expect the same sales, the massive sales increase they got by delaying Suicide Squad.
No, this is a 12-week delay, not a 12-month delay.
Oh, well.
February 14th, 2025, it's been delayed too. So.
There you go. So, what is it? Ghost of Tsushima 2 will be February 7th.
Yeah, I don't know, it's quite funny because as a fan base, the Assassin's Creed players have been crying out for a Japanese setting for as long as I can remember the franchise being up and about, and the fact that they finally released one at the same time as another game set in the same area that's arguable. I'll get that out. Should be a lot better than an Assassin's Creed game. I think they're in a bit of danger.
Oh, yes. This one has Turkey written all over it. That's going to do us for the news. Gentlemen, thank you very much for going through it. Oh, before I pull the trigger on that, Bully, any chatter in the YouTube chat, mate?
We have had a little bit, which is fantastic to see, seeing as we've been on a mild hiatus for a while. But Sean Games has joined us back there.
Hey, Sean, how you doing, man?
Great to see him back. We're just talking about the difference between Xbox and PlayStation, and he's got both, but he's enjoying his Xbox a bit more at the moment, including Power World, and just on the PS5 Pro, he's out on that one because of it not having a disc drive, which I think was we discussed there, although I did manage to snag one of those. So,
that's
wallet's wearing thin.
Sean Games, if you're real quick in the chat, mate, just let us know if you've put your hand up, if you're in the ballot for the 30th anniversary edition, even with the limitation there.
Well, I think that doesn't have I'm pretty sure the
no, it doesn't have
a disc drive either.
No, it doesn't. But I'm just wondering if it's still, because it's so appealing, or at least it's so appealing to me, I could forego the physical disc drive just to get that good-looking console.
And his answer is
no. Oh, hard pass. Fair enough.
No, still too much. I don't disagree with you. It's a lot of money. Although probably not as much as I was expecting, given the extras you get with it. But in any event, it is pushing the till there a little bit.
Indeed it is. All right, guys, that's going to do it for episode 93, I believe, of the Gaming Enforcement Agency. We'll be back next Thursday night, 8:30 p.m. try saying that with a straight face. Ace, thank you very much for joining us this evening, mate.
Always a pleasure. Thank you very much for having me.
Great work, buddy. And Bully, thank you for holding us up in that third slot all evening, mate.
All good. I've got broad shoulders for a reason. Hold you two lads up.
Fantastic, mate. We'll let you go now so you can go and pick up yourself a copy of Space Marine 2.
And another platinum.
Yeah, and another platinum. Thank you very much for watching, everybody. What else could you do with the channel, Bully?
You can like it, subscribe it, and you'll never miss it.
Oh, that was luck. Hey, that's something. Old Uncle Donkey. Donkey.